Hey folks, welcome back. Rudy Alpha Investments 2021 moves forward here. Today we're going back to, I guess, the end of 2018. End of 2019, most of 2020. War of the Spark conversation today, folks. You need a lot of messages on this. Want to make a nice little 10-minute discussion, kind of give everyone my thoughts on what I see going on here and kind of where I think we're going to head to. Overall, for those of you who just want to do the old double thumbs down and run out the side door or the back door, giggity, pretty much you're looking at this. War of the Spark broke $100 a box, and I don't expect much further movement in the short term, but I do believe before 2021 ends, these suckers are probably going to be popping above 150 a box, and I do still stand by my 3 to 5 year projection that War of the Spark boxes are going to be $200 to $250 a box in less than 5 years. This thing's going to be a monster move. So there you go. There's the short-term answer for those of you who just want to move on with your life. So let me break down my thought process and why that is. So first of all, as of the filming this video, War of the Spark on TCG Player and eBay are now averaging $100 a booster box, and that's not including taxes for most of you out there that have to buy. So most people, it's already been about almost 110 shipped with taxes and shipping out the door. But with not including that, we're at that magical $100 inflection point. So also keep in mind, War of the Spark, the very last product to come out before the golden age kind of really rolled over into Throne of Eldraine, where we had collector boxes, fancy holiday boxes with collector packs, the Throne Brawl decks. You had all kinds of different products. So War of the Spark marks the end of that bronze era that ended in 2019. I think the market will eventually adjust to that. I don't think it's going to be very quick. I really don't think there's a lot of, how do I say it? I don't think there's really a lot of get-rich-quick money to be made here. I wouldn't pause this video and run out and buy a bunch of War of the Spark. I don't think there's going to be a lot of movement, but I think this is going to be more of a slow, steady movement type of product over the next couple of years. It's going to be those things where as the supply continues to dwindle, we're going to see more of a calm move up, and it's going to be real quiet. Now, usually when we have sealed products that move more smoother like this without a knee-jerk dramatic price spike, usually nobody cares, because you don't notice it. It's kind of boring. It's not exciting. Doesn't have that sexiness. Doesn't give you that dopamine endorphin rush. It's kind of boring. Watching a box go, oh look, it went from 100. Oh look, now it's 102. Oh, the next cheapest is 105 now. And when every 3, 4, 5 weeks it moves $2, $3, it's very boring. It doesn't get a lot of attention. But on a percentage wise, it's still quite significant. So anyways, because of that, remember War of the Spark was also the one. It was in print for a long time. It was literally the best or one of the best selling standard boxes in the history of Magic the Gathering in the last 25 plus years. So keep in mind, it's not like this was a very limited release. There's no short-term scarcity or anything like that. This sucker was manufactured, printed, and distributed all over the world. So keep that in mind. The other side of the coin, this was a very heavily open mass box opening product. If I wasn't even doing YouTube and Patreon and doing a lot of these collection buying, and if I was still 2015 and back, Rudy, this would have been definitely a 480 to 600 booster box mass box opening, just because you could be selling uncommons and play sets of uncommons, because you had planeswalkers in the uncommon slot. You had a lot of good rares. A lot of good rares. You had all kinds of mythics and planeswalker. There's just a lot of variety on how the product derived its value during standard. There was a lot of opportunity to make money. War of the Spark also, for the longest time, while it was in print and in standard, the actual expected value never really collapsed very early. For most of its life cycle, at the very beginning, War of the Spark was holding, it was $120 to $140 expected value for the standard booster box. There was only draft boxes. There was no set boxes, collector boxes. There was nothing, and it held very well. So for stores who are buying these things for, remember, pre-price increase, back in a year or 2 years ago, when you were buying these things for $78 a box and you were cracking 600 boxes, there was a lot of opportunity to make probably, I would say, between 20 to 30% net shipping and fees profit. So again, if you're doing 600 boxes, it's a $50,000 run or something. Doing a $50,000 run, you make 20, 30%. Even 20%, you're talking, minimum $10,000 net profit in a 30, 60-day period just on this one product line. If you got lucky and you just got some better mythic pools and some better foil pools, you could be talking a 30, 35% profit margin on 50 grand. There was no, you'd have to put labor into it and input some other costs and expenses, and of course 1% fraud rate, blah, blah, blah. But there was real money in this stuff. I mean, stores made some serious money. Not even to mention just selling the sealed product. Most of the life cycle of War of the Spark, local LGSs, I mean, you know, even on eBay, they were always selling for $90.95 on eBay. Even local LGSs were selling these things for like $1 to $120 in person, plus tax probably. You know, I mean, these things never really collapsed and went through a major bear market compared to other products out there. So War of the Spark will go down as a very infamous time in Magic, pre-flashy era. It was in a very interesting sweet spot, I'm telling you all. That's kind of where I see it at. That's kind of where we came from. And I do think moving forward, I stand by, I think before the end of 2021, $150 boxes, and I definitely still believe in less than 5 years, we're going to be about that $250 booster box price. It's going to, I think once supply really gets dwindled, I really think we're going to see some heavy movement. So before we end the video, I want to comment on two other topics, because people are going to ask me about Japanese War of the Spark, and of course people are going to ask me about the single cards within War of the Spark. So first thing, the single cards within War of the Spark, no, I don't think they're going to spike in price. I do not believe the expected value of War of the Spark is going to rise anytime soon. There'll be a couple cards within War of the Spark that I do think will have some upticks, but overall, the box expected value, I expect it to not even breach $100 a box. I think when these boxes go to $200 a box, the cards within the box will still be probably $100 or less. No joke. Similar to the Dominarias, Dominatrix type product. Dominaria is still sitting at like, what, $60 expected value using TCG Market. And on top of that, sealed boxes of Dominaria, if you can even find them, they're all $150 to $200 a box now. And I expect Dominaria to keep going. I expect Dominaria before the end of this year to be $200 plus. So, you know, you have to remember, the more time we insert, giggity, into the product, the less the data of the cards within the product matter. Remember that. As time increases, teeter-totter. Here, hang on. Teeter-totter. As time goes up, the value of the cards don't matter. So remember that. The more time that goes by, the less this side of the category matters. Magic has always been that way. It always will be. All collectibles are that way. Look at Pokemon. Hell, look at Flesh and Blood. Look at Weiss. Look at Vanguard. Look at Yu-Gi-Oh! The market always values time, and sealed product is always kind of the king of valuation. It's kind of that tier 1 thing. So keep that in mind. I don't actually expect the cards in the set to do much. And if anything in War of the Spark happens to have a price jump, I genuinely think it will get reprinted or the secret lair reach around. One of those two things will occur. So again, modern cards, still heavy bear market. It's the most disaster, just terrible, terrible environment for single cards in modern cards I've ever seen. And I don't expect that to change anytime soon. But I do think eventually in the future, the market will shift on that and Wizards will realize that and they will change direction. But it's going to be a long path, folks. So last thing on this video, people always ask me about Japanese War of the Spark, ladies and gentlemen. So Japanese War boxes, also known as the Jap boxes for the War of the Spark. Obviously, we have a very special scenario where this specific Japanese War of the Spark had those famous artists do some of the planeswalkers, like the Liliana, the real famous one, and the prices are very, very elevated on Jap War of the Spark boxes. So, I do think those prices are going to hold. No, I would not touch the single card prices like the Japanese Liliana alternate art in these PSA 10s and Beckett graded and people paying thousands. I think it's cool. It's kind of nice to see new cards getting some love and action with grading. But again, do not underestimate the sealed product of Japanese War of the Spark boxes and how many of those planeswalkers exist. Be very, very careful with that. Those are not investments. They are not long-term growth vehicles. Be very, very careful. I think Japanese sealed boxes will continue to age well, and I think they're going to do well as people crack them, going for the hunt for these, you know, fancy alternate art Lilianas. So I think the supply will continue to dwindle, and I think the Japanese war boxes will outpace the English variant a little bit quicker of a rate. But overall, it's a unique scenario. No, unfortunately, I do not have any Japanese War of the Spark boxes. I still do not handle, purchase, or deal in non-English products. It's just, even though this was an exemption of an amazing story, it's still not something I get involved in. I still have no plans to in the future. So just be very, very careful with those items, everybody. Because remember, anything that's spicy and gets expensive, whatever it is, Wizards is going to go after that for secondary market, for secret lair, for opportunity to make money. They're going to go after these things. These are targets. And until they show their behavior changes, I mean, slap my taco, put me across the face and giggity. I mean,